This BizNews production is brought to you by Brenthurst Wealth, the leader in offshore investing, connecting South Africa to opportunities worldwide. Invest better with Brenthurst. Pietermaritzburg, fantastic town. I was at prep school there, I was at university there for a wonderful year, but it's a shambles at the moment. Have businesses been leaving?
You know, I've got to say that we have one of the best business communities in the country. They're incredibly resilient. They stand together. We discuss what the issues are. We work out what we have to do about it, and they come to the party and pay for it. I mean, this court action is of benefit for the whole of South Africa. It was important to us, and my guys funded it. So, yes, there are people that are looking elsewhere to establish plants. We've got big industry that have established plants elsewhere. We have not seen the growth that we should have enjoyed by Pietermaritzburg companies, and some have left, but the majority of them are diehard Pietermaritzburgers. It is an incredible place to live and raise a family. You know, we have the most, probably the concentration of the best schools in the country around our city. The Midlands is absolutely beautiful. We're walking in a valley amongst wildebeest and zebra within 15 minutes of leaving work. Incredible landscape. And the people have amazing hearts. They're just awesome people.
So what's gone wrong?
Governance. I mean, our municipality has just unapologetically behaved badly and governed poorly. That's it.
Are the people paying attention? Because the advantage you have is right next door is Chris Papas and Mgeni. And as you know, we have family in Maritzburg, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law. And when you drive from Hilton, from their home, into Pietermaritzburg, it's incredible. You've got this beautiful road, and suddenly you've got Pothole City. It's like night and day right next to each other. Are the people of Pietermaritzburg paying attention, and as a consequence, will they use the ballot to change?
I'm worried about what change the ballot will bring, to be honest. I think people are, to use a good South African word, hurtful, but a lot of them will be looking for what's the best alternative for me, and that's a worry. I think there will certainly be perhaps a lot of people that decide that's not the way they want to go, and then won't vote. No, it's interesting. It's like I was saying to somebody the other day. It's like being a diehard Springbok supporter, and your team is playing really badly against the All Blacks. Do you change jerseys because your team's playing badly, or do you just not go to the game? So I hope that the choice that people make is either they vote for positive change. I think the people that are on our program that are now running successful businesses will look for the kind of leadership that creates an enabling environment. That will be their priority, and so I hope that either people vote for somebody that will create the kind of environment that allows us to build an economy that everyone has access to, that works for business because business employs, or just not go if they can't find it in their hearts to do it.
And I think we all hope for the best, but KZN has had a troubled period. We had the riots in 2021. The MK party came within a whisker of taking over. How strong, or what is the political temperature there, and how relevant would it be if the MK party were to take control of Pietermaritzburg, i.e. can it go much further down?
I mean, I think there's a possibility in the whole of KZN, because I think that, the delivery has been so abominable that everybody is hurtful, and they want change because it isn't working. So people are going to vote for whoever they think is going to bring the most positive change for them. I can't believe, I'm going to go back to the 2021 riots. And standing in Barnsley Road, I stood in amongst all the broken machinery and stuff that was pulled out of the The businesses there, the broken glass, the smashed stuff. I mean, Macro was decimated in that road. So was the SAB warehouse. It was just, but in amongst it, lying in the debris and in the river on the bank were young people's bodies. And I will never forget standing there and realizing with absolute horror, having gone through those buildings and seen that there was a modus operandi. They went in, they disabled the water sprinkler system, they pulled the insulation out of the ceilings, they brought petrol with them, they poured it on there, they set it alight, they wrote Ramaphosa must go back to Venda, Zuma is the best president, and they destroyed all those businesses. But when they did that, in that orchestrated manner, and they got everybody riled up and invited them to loot and take whatever they liked, they must have known that people were going to die in that process, and they did it anyway. And it's the horror of that really stays with me. And I know that in our communities, people won't be easily incited to behave in that way again, because they were the biggest losers and they know that. But I don't think a lot of them realize and really sit back and think, whoever was behind this knew the risks to us and they didn't care. They did it anyway.
Rob Hersov a little while ago said, get rid of KZN. We don't need KZN in South Africa. It's such a mess. Zuma and co, they must just go and make the mess on their own. Clearly that would not fill you with great delight.
No, it wouldn't fill me with great delight. It's quite mean, actually, I think, from Rob. But yeah, KZN is an amazing province. I mean, that's, I think our economy is second to Gauteng in terms of manufacturing size and contribution to GDP. So I think we're important. And aside from that, I think in a lot of ways, we're more real. You know, I know I live in a hell of an exciting place, so there's never a dull moment. And we probably face things before a lot of South African cities actually get to face them. But there's some realities on the ground that are maybe highlighted more easily in our space that need to be addressed in South Africa. It's stuff that you can't ignore. You know, we have to have a country that all South Africans can feel, A, that they have a chance of accessing the economy, B, most people just want to have enough to be able to, a job to go to, enough to be able to feed their families, to send their kids to school, to pay for transport, have a bra on the weekend, and live a good and decent life.
So are you saying the challenges that businesses are facing in KZN are the challenges that are likely to be faced elsewhere? And I refer you to what happened last month with Thirsty.
It's happening all over. I mean, Thirsty faced the same issue that we've been facing for the last 5 weeks. I keep going out to site. I keep saying to these guys, I've met with our provincial SAPS leadership, who I must say have done an exceptional job. I mean, they've got rid of a lot of the construction mafia issues. They've been very proactive about dealing with it, and they've agreed that they will arrest these guys. There need to be charges filed against them, and they need to be arrested. So there's no issue as far as that's concerned. But they pop up. They lie about. I mean, they've gone to most of the spas in the area. They stand on video and they say, you know, people are doing the most horrendous things. They're forcing their employees to sleep with them. Otherwise, they fire them. It's to rile up their communities. And I've engaged with them. I've gone out and seen them. And the last time I was at one of our members called Mageza's. It's a garage at the entrance to Mpopameni. And they were saying, this guy rides a big Porsche and he only pays these people 200 Rand a week. And I know from previous engagements that the likelihood of that happening is very low. You can't say unequivocally that people are all behaving exactly as they should. But I know from the accusations they've made before that it's very unlikely. And they produced some union papers to say that these people have all joined them and they're in the union. And they're just nonsense. It's just absolute nonsense. They've also, by the way, been extorting businesses in the more rural spaces where they go and they say, oh, I see that you employing some foreign nationals here. It's okay. We'll let you go for the moment, but you must pay this 50,000 Rand for our T-shirt bill or whatever. I mean, they're extortionists. They really are.
And what do you advise businesses that get approached in that way?
Well, what they've been doing so far is that they immediately phone me and I phone our acting district police commissioner, and the police are deployed to the scene, and that they remove them and reopen the business. And if there's any intimidation or trespassing, that they open cases and that they are charged, because you can't simply go around closing businesses and disrupting our economy. The irony is they say that they're going to create jobs for South Africans. They're doing no such thing. What they're doing is actually ensuring that there are no jobs for the people that are currently unemployed. They're not doing anybody any favors, that's for sure.
But in Normandie, the police were leading the charge with automatic weapons. So have we got pockets of good police and bad police?
Absolutely. When we had the riots, I told you there were people that stood by and just watched, and you still have an element of that. But the provincial leadership have said if there is any problem like that, they are to be reported immediately, and we to hand over the videos. The police that I've seen on the scene that I've been at have been great.
So now we get to the point that everybody here should be interested in. Lieutenant Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, the head of the police service in KZN. Controversial character. Last time we spoke, you said he's the man. Do you still feel the same way?
I can only say what we've experienced from him. And
Sorry, did I say Lieutenant? Lieutenant General.
Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. We have found him to be approachable, to be reasonable, and he is absolutely revered in KZN for having had the guts to stand up and expose the corruption in the police. He's a hero, and nobody will have you say anything other than that. From a business perspective, he's been fantastic. He's gone out and dealt with all the crime syndicates that were holding construction areas hostage. He is decisive in dealing with that. He is very well respected in our business community.
Now, that's an interesting point, because there are, with the Madlanga Commission, particularly Paul O'Sullivan at the ad hoc committee in Parliament as well, making all kinds of allegations that he's anything but. What's your reading of that?
I've seen absolutely no indication that there is anything untoward about him. He's a career policeman. He's not shown that there is anything influencing his decision-making in that space. I find what has been said very hard to believe, given the exposure that we've had to him.
And the fact that you've made a couple of references already to the police working with business in addressing some of these miscreants suggests that, well, it can't be all bad.
No, I mean, so they're certainly stepping up. Election years are always, I'm sorry the election's only in November, because we've got a long year ahead of ourselves. But they're always super exciting with people trying to make points. I think one of the things South Africa has to guard against is the idea of celebrating vigilantism. It's something that we tend to do, definitely in our province, and I think in a lot of South Africa, and that comes out of a sheer frustration of non-delivery of promises.
Well, we're going to the questions in a moment. Just one last issue. You said you're worried about the consequences of the change in the vote in KZN. What would worry you about MK taking power from the ANC in the province and indeed in Pietermaritzburg?
Look, I think our city has been so badly run for so long that what we really need is some really good administrative intervention. And the National Treasury has been saying for some time that we've been under a voluntary program, a voluntary intervention program, that we should be under mandatory. Pietermaritzburg has the most incredible amount of potential. And what we need is good leadership and a good administration. And I don't feel confident that we get that under MK leadership, given the ill discipline that we see even in the campaigning.
But what's going to change? And I want to refer you to what Pete Leroux said about Ditsabotla. There's chaos. So they had another set of elections, and the chaos continued. And eventually, because of Sakaliga, they forced National Treasury and the national government to take over. They sued Ramaphosa, or threatened to sue him and the finance minister. And eventually they had to take over. Is that on the cards for Pietermaritzburg? Would that be a solution, a possible solution?
Look, I think what will happen, we'll wait for the outcome of this tariff challenge. If there is a reversal of tariffs back to 23-24, that has some serious implications for a city that is in dire financial trouble already, and I think that would encourage an intervention by National Treasury. If it doesn't, then we're going to have to go back to the drawing board. I mean, people that live in Pietermaritzburg and invest their all in their businesses and their homes are passionate about our city, and we will step up and do what needs to be done in order to ensure that we have a future.
People who lived in the old Salisbury were very passionate about their city as well. And I guess that's the question that some cynics would have. You know, we sometimes see the world as we want it to be rather than what it really is. And that's where I'm getting to. Where's the solution here?
The solution is that our city needs to be under administration. We need to remove the politics from it, and we need to put the city under administration. And we need to deal with the corruption, which is endemic at every single level of the organization. And we're not alone with that.
Time to talk to Sakaliga, probably, maybe. Jeremy Wiley has a question. What are SA business chambers doing to motivate their members to encourage all their member companies to ensure that their staff register and turn out to vote in the local elections?
Yeah, we haven't done anything about that yet, but we certainly will. It's a great suggestion. Michael
Ash's question is, based on your experience of dealing with municipal Eskom debt, what do you see as the primary drivers of the problem? Non-payment, electricity theft, and illegal connections, technical losses from aging infrastructure, tariff pressures, or governance failures? It's quite a long list, but which is the one, if you could change it, you would?
Look, I mean, I think it's governance failure, catastrophic governance failure. And it is that leadership make decisions. I mean, our leadership made decisions to sponsor some crazy soccer teams when we can't afford to pay our Eskom bill or our Mgeni water bill. When we're making gross trading losses. I mean, if you were running a business and you were billing less than what you were paying to Eskom, then you would try to fix that as a first stop, because electricity used to cross-subsidize a lot of other elements of municipal function. And now you're making losses. There's no way you can pay Eskom. And there's no way you trade your way out of that unless you deal with the losses situation. So it doesn't make sense why it's not being dealt with more vigor, unless it's condoned.
It's extraordinary. Are there any other municipalities that are in worse condition than Pietermaritzburg? Any other big municipalities, members of your association?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you have a look at the number of municipalities around the country that haven't paid Eskom, that'll tell you everything you need to know. I mean, they are far worse. We were hearing yesterday about municipalities that can't even send a bill. So there's municipalities in this country that are totally dysfunctional, and you don't see anybody actually acting against it. It's mind blowing.
And the business chambers there, are they functional?
They tend to be smaller places, and so no, you don't see that they're functional. But the business community, I know, and at least a couple of them have stood up and they've got a
Harry Smith.
Eskom to take over the municipal electricity functions here.
I think Harry Smith did that. The locals got involved. So I suppose there is a big role for business as things become more dysfunctional. Dean Versteer's question is, with the major upgrades along the N3 corridor between Durban and Pietermaritzburg, What economic opportunities could this unlock for Maritzburg and the KZN Midlands? And how might this influence the regional property market?
Yeah, I think the development, I think between Durban and Pietermaritzburg, it will eventually close. Like between Johannesburg and Pretoria, it's becoming really important from a logistics point of view. Pietermaritzburg has a really important role to play in the province. Our proximity to the N3 and the fact that we sit just outside the Rust Belt means that we are really good for metal processing. And so we process a lot of metals. Electricity is really important for us because we're a lot of industry that is electricity hungry, power hungry. And with the N3 being the busiest highway in the country and the number of trucks in there, had to open up the highway, but that's not going to solve the problem entirely. So there's a talk of the development of logistics hubs, of dry docks, of utilizing the trains to take stuff from that region to the port, which is totally congested. So yeah, from a logistics point of view, very important. From a development proximity to the port, also really, really important. And for those that are processing metals, the region
Property prices?
Property prices.
How are property prices?
Look up. I don't think that property prices are fine in Pietermaritzburg. We're an interesting city in the sense that we're a capital city, so we have a big government contingent living in our city and working there. We also have a very growing private healthcare sector that's just expanding at a rate of knots. So, and it makes sense to do that because we have a larger number of people on medical aid than most cities, being a capital. We have that big retirement community in need of specialist services. And we service a large community into Northern KZN where there are no specialist services or limited specialist services. So it is something that's growing really, really well. Another thing that probably you won't know is that a lot of people are choosing to live in the area because it is a wonderful place to raise children. It's relatively safe. We walk in our forests and things without there being an issue. The schools are exceptional. There's still really good values. It's and the people are lovely. So a lot of people set their families up there. They fly. We've got flights between our airport and Johannesburg several times a day. So people fly up on a Monday morning, they work in Joburg, they come back on a Friday, and the family stays in our region, in the Midlands region. So
And the schools, you have to drive through central Maritzburg, though.
no, you can hop into the highway. You don't have to
Okay.
actually drive through central Maritzburg, but it's not that bad. Central Maritzburg's not that bad. I've seen worse, that's for sure.
Okay, it's not Hermanus.
Not very many places are Hermanus.
If the MK party's leadership is widely perceived as compromised or administratively weak, why do you think a meaningful portion of voters will still see it as a credible alternative?
Because they're positioning themselves as champions of the people, because they go around and tell people they'll put up their social grant. I mean, if all you've got to look forward to, if your only access to an improvement of your life is an increase in your social grant, then you're going to put your tick next to the person that's going to give it to you. You know, what would be the point of having anybody else govern?
Bruce Ravenhill wants to know why are you not standing for mayor of Maritzburg? You have the track record.
Could probably get shot in the first week. I'm the most politically incorrect person you could find. Yeah, I don't think politics is for me. I won't toe a party line ever. So I think that's an issue in politics.
When you say electrical tariffs, do you mean levies? Levies have become a new tax on those who are able to pay. Is this unfair in your opinion? Krista Force's question.
So there is a legal way of municipalities putting surcharges on the electricity costs, which is a totally separate process to the tariff application process with the energy regulator. And there are a lot of municipalities that haven't cottoned onto that, but they are able to put those in. It has to go through a process, but it doesn't have to be approved by the regulator. So it is a way of municipalities increasing their electricity revenue without having to make application for it.
When you drive through Pietermaritzburg towards Durban, on your left-hand side, there used to be the big Steinhoff factory, PG Bison, and then a little bit further, Hulamin, big aluminium factory, Tongaat. Now, those two names are well known to people in this room. Steinhoff, Tongaat. Are they still operating, those two?
Absolutely, yeah. So Hulamin is probably our biggest employer in Pietermaritzburg. They employ over 2,000 people. No, they're amazingly stable. They're an incredible company, processing aluminium. And then the other development that was undertaken by Steinhoff was a whole lot of light industrial, and yes, that's still functioning. It's going well.
That's interesting. So they're the biggest employer with 2,000 people. ArcelorMittal has just laid off 3,500 people in Newcastle. So you can imagine the impact on that much smaller town.
Massive, absolutely massive. I think everybody in Newcastle is in some way connected to Mittal, yeah.
And they seem to have more political activism, given what we heard from Normandine Farms, which was the other big employer in the town. So it's KZN just seems like a mess. Come on, give us some hope.
I don't know. I think it's quite fun. I mean, you guys must get really bored down here, isn't it?
Oh yeah, terribly bored. Yeah,
all those whales and stuff. I mean, honestly.
What do you think? May you live in interesting times. What did you think of the U.S. ambassadors opening up of the Business Accelerator program by the U.S. Embassy? They haven't given details yet, but the fact that the EU Business Accelerator program, which you referred to, seems to be doing pretty well. The potential here could be significant.
Look, I mean, I think that anybody that's going to contribute to the creation of businesses and a more sustainable environment for South Africa has got to be welcomed. You can't argue with anything the ambassador had to say. I mean, he's not asking for unreasonable stuff. So, I mean, we're completely open to help from anybody who will give it to us so that we're able to grow businesses, to create access for our people that don't have access, to encourage the youth. I think one of the things that I actually forgot to mention that always sits really close to my heart is our failure to be honest with young people. I had a couple of young chaps come and see me a little while ago they said they were from the Black Management Forum at the university. And they said, can they come and talk to me about something? And I said, absolutely. And then they said, we've nearly qualified as lawyers. What is the chamber doing to ensure that there are jobs for us when we finished? And I said, that's absolutely fascinating that you would ask me that question. Can I ask you a question? And they said, yes. And I said, if I told you nobody wanted to buy blue fluffy widgets, would you go and set up a factory and manufacture them? So they said, no, of course we wouldn't. So I said, before you went to university to acquire the skills that you now wish to sell in the open marketplace, did you establish whether anybody wanted to buy them? And they both looked at me with horror. And they said, nobody's ever said that to us. And I said, that is actually the tragedy. You can't go around telling people they can be anything they want to be and the world will like it. That's not how it works. We need to be more deliberate about encouraging young people to study things where there is demand on the marketplace, because we've got a lot of people that are qualified in professions that are never going to be absorbed into our economy, and that is tragic in a country where we have the unemployment levels we do.
I was fascinated to hear when you spoke about critical thinking skills training. We've got a little unit now at Biz News where many years ago, I did a mind course, a thinking skills course. And Jeanette's now got something together that she's running. It's actually in the book. If you have a look towards the back, it's called Mind Lines. Okay. And it's about critical thinking. And It's helped us a lot at Biz News. And it was interesting to see that this was something that you had within the chamber. Just unpack it for us, exactly what it is that you do there.
Well, I think the wonderful thing about the programs that we run is that that the team that run it are incredibly perceptive and incredibly caring. And so they bring out quite a lot of honesty from the people they're engaging with. And over time, you realize that there are certain things that you have to introduce to the program that you never really anticipated in the beginning. And that was one of the things is realizing that something that is so automatically passed on in some families is not passed on in every family. And you can't expect people to know stuff that they've never learned. And so that needs to be part of the work that we do. We realize that it needs to be part of the work that we do, and it's been incredible. I think one of the most rewarding things for me when this cohort of our last export accelerator businesses, the one chap, Jitesh, stood up and he said, I mean, his business has grown phenomenally. He runs a really, really great business. But what he said when he stood up is that this program has helped me to be a better businessman, a better husband, and a better father. And that was really meaningful for us.
I want to show you something interesting. You have a look at that. Those are the notes. Well, okay. The
Those
X
were the
iPad.
notes.
If you have a look at the notes, the way that I take notes, and I've done this throughout my career, it's by using a skill that I learned from that thinking skill course however many years ago. And you can see some of it's black, some of it's blue, some of it's red.
Yeah.
It's engaging the right side of the brain. Now, if I hadn't learned that 30 years ago, I'm pretty sure that my career would have taken a very different path. So it's a little thing like that, little understanding better, that can make a huge difference in somebody's trajectory. And the point you've made a moment ago is, well, how are people going to learn this otherwise? And yet we don't invest time in something as simple as that, as just giving a leg up rather than, or a hand up, is it? Rather than a hand out. Have you got any examples of how this has benefited?
Well, I can only tell you that those businesses, I think of the one lady staying up and she said, I mean, she's a chemist, a qualified chemist, and she, as a young person, she said at home they only had the one sunlight green soap, and they would cut some for dishes and some for washing and some for bathing, etc. So everything got, part of that green soap. And so she dreamed of developing a range of affordable cleaning products that were environmentally friendly and could be used by the community. And that's what she developed. She's actually the lady whose business has grown phenomenally. And she stood up at our last Woman in Business function and she said, I didn't realize that I was running my business like a spaza shop. So people are brilliant. They are incredibly entrepreneurial, but they don't always have the knowledge because it hasn't been shared with them. So I think that creating programs like this, enabling people that are entrepreneurs to excel and to grow is probably the most rewarding work ever.
Warren Buffett says accounting is the language of business. And it's scary how few people in business, entrepreneurs, have very little understanding of accounting. And maybe just a rudimentary start could make a huge difference. Last question, Mel. From John Endres. He's the chief executive of the IRR. Good. The most prestigious think tank in South Africa. So you must know it's going to be a good question.
Great.
Is the eThekwini turnaround real? Is that a model for Pietermaritzburg?
It depends on who you talk to. If I talk to my colleague in the chamber in Durban, there's been very little change. So I'm going to have to say no. No. There's a lot of talk. I don't know that it's translated into anything really actionable.
So what are you going to leave us with for a little bit of hope?
Oh, I think I was extremely hopeful. There's lots happening. You can you
Come
can
and
get
have fun.
behind it. Come and have fun, yeah. No, I think what I want to leave you with is that every South African that wants to, that envisions the country that we were promised in 1994 has an obligation to stand up and contribute to it. So my invitation to you is support your local chambers. If you can't do it yourself, at least contribute. You've all got staff, you've all got areas of influence. Engage with people, understand where they're at, and make a contribution to building our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. This BizNews production is brought to you by Brenthurst Wealth, a multi-award winning, truly independent boutique wealth manager. Invest better with Brenthurst.